Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our November Zoom meeting. I think we have a very exciting and unique topic for our meeting today discussion, and we're looking forward to it. I'd like to also introduce our officers for the Ohio Grandparent Kinship Coalition. Unfortunately, Dr. Jones, who is our co-president, is not able to be with us today. Her mother passed last weekend, and so she is taking care of some of the arrangements for her. So she wasn't able to come, but she sends her best wishes and for a successful meeting today. Lynn Stevens is our co-vice president, and she's joining us. And Ron Browder, who is our board chair, he's on the meeting with us also. And I'm part of OGKC, so I'm going to sort of step in for Dr. Jones today to set up the meeting. Another major announcement I have for the group is that we are having our December meeting. We're going to move it to another date and time for December because we want to do something special for the kinship families. So the December meeting will be on Saturday this year. It'll be on December the 3rd at noon. And what we want to do is allow kinship families to bring the children into the meeting and be able to talk with and see Santa Claus. And that way they'll be able to let Santa know what they want for Christmas. And then all of the kinship families that do participate in the meeting will receive a gift card. Right now, we don't know the amount because we're just not sure about how many will participate, but they will receive gift cards for each one of the children that are on the meeting and talking with Santa, and we'll send those out in time for them to have them for Christmas. So that was one of the reasons why we're having it a little early this year, is to make sure that we give gift cards out to all the caregivers for the children. So Lisa will put the registration in the chat for anybody who wants to register today. And if you don't, or those people that aren't on today, I will be sending out the meeting notice probably later today or first thing in the morning so people can get registered. And so we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to register and put it on their calendar because it is a different day and time, and make sure that you're ready to participate in the meeting. One of the other things that we want to do for caregivers is we want to send a survey out probably sometime in December to get an idea of what the interests are of the caregivers that OGKC can help maybe meet and connect with them, especially around topics for our meetings and other kind of activities that they see as important for them to have an opportunity to get involved in. So that survey will be coming out to everybody on the OGK contact. And so we really hope that everybody participates and responds and let your voice be heard about how you want OGKC to work for you and how you can get involved. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our meeting presenter and a little bit about what she's going to be talking about. The information we're going to receive today is about the unique statewide online kinship caregiver support group, Kinship Caregivers Connect. The support group currently meets online twice weekly to hear about topics of interest and provide caregivers a safe space to talk about their issues and offer support to each other. Our presenter today is somebody that OGKC has really been proud to support over the last going on 3 years now with her support group. And that's Dr. Angela Tobin. She's an occupational therapist who recently graduated with her clinical doctorate degree from the Ohio State University and has a bachelor's degree in educational psychology from Mississippi State University. Her personal experience living as a part of a kinship family inspired her current work as she founded and leads Kinship Caregivers Connect. This is an online support group for caregivers in Ohio since June of 2020. Angela also works as an associate researcher on topics related to the well-being of kinship families and other family types with the University of North Carolina. So I'm going to let Angela go ahead and take over the meeting.
Thank you, Barb, so much. Thank you for that introduction. Before I start and share my PowerPoint, I want to thank OGKC so much for having me here. But more than that, just their support of me through developing this support group, which I'll mention. But it's always an honor, and you all have such a great group of people and caregivers as well. And I do want to thank all the Kinship caregivers here from my group. I see you guys have logged on. So y'all are the best. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys too. So let me share my screen. Can everyone see that okay? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And if people have questions, I'll try to keep my eye on the chat, but if questions come up in the chat, if Barb or someone else just want to mention them out loud, if I don't see them, I'm happy to answer questions throughout the presentation as well. But today I'll be sharing a little bit about our support group, Kinship Caregivers Connect. And we do have support group meetings, but we also have other things that kind of make us a support network. So I'm hoping that you all will see different outlets for support, whether or not you can make meetings or not, but just being connected to us and hearing from other kinship caregivers too, because I feel like knowing you're not alone in this is such a big part, and feeling supported. So that's also why I started the support group. But I also want to recognize Ohio Kinship and Adoption Navigator Program. They are the ones that partnered with me to allow this support group to keep going. And they're also a great organization statewide for kinship caregivers. So I also want to recognize them for this presentation. I know this meeting is about, I guess we have an hour and 15 minutes left. I'm not sure how long this will take. I think it will take the whole time, but I really want to leave time for us to share and kind of have a sample little support group meeting at the end of this, if you all are open to that. And also, poetry is kind of a habit of mine, so I'll be weaving different poems throughout the presentation. It might seem different, so I just wanted to mention it now, but I hope you all will enjoy those. And yeah, I'm not used to doing this much talking. Normally it's the caregivers talking. So I'm going to try to talk slow, and it's weird hearing myself so much, but I'm happy to be here and share more about myself and more about the group as well. So as Barb mentioned, my name's Angela Tobin, and I'm currently an occupational therapist. Some of you all might not be sure what occupational therapy is, or just more be familiar with it. Working with your kids might see some occupational therapists, but in training to become one, we talked a lot about kind of the meaning of life, and the goal of occupational therapy is helping people do the activities that are meaningful to them. And certainly caregiving falls in under that, but also just thinking about stepping in as a caregiver, how these roles really change not only what you do every day, but also your identity in some ways. So I really appreciate the background of kind of being able to see the big picture of things and just how much roles and routines play into identity, and also well-being. And we also learn a lot about developmental milestones for kids as well. So that's been helpful too. But yeah, more about me. I've kind of been all over the place. So I'm actually from Connecticut, and then I moved to Mississippi State for my undergraduate degree. And there I studied educational psychology, which I really enjoyed. And while I was there, I actually joined a research lab called the Grand Families Lab, just because from my own personal experience, which I'll share more about, I was really interested in learning about kinship families on a bigger level. So I didn't actually get to meet any caregivers, but I did look at different outcomes related to well-being from like large national surveys. And then for graduate school, I went to Ohio State University, and there I was granted a fellowship called the Albert Schweitzer Fellowship. And it's a one-year grant to start a group for any population within the community. So I decided to start a support group for kinship families. And of course, I got the grant in March, and then COVID hit in April/March. So really quickly, I kind of had to change my plans for that, and it ended up being an online support group. But that's really how we started, and I've been able to continue it today. And I have another job on top of the support group, and that's working as a research associate for Dr. Ramona Denby. And I work for her virtually. She's actually based at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She used to be at Ohio State University. And we really just look to make kinship caregivers' voices apparent in research. And work towards different initiatives that can really close the gap and so like the inequities and supports that kinship families often don't provide. So for example, this past year, we've done focus groups on a wide range of topics, and kind of topics that are more new, including like kinship caregivers experiences during COVID-19, and also caregivers experiences with co-parenting with the birth parent, among other topics. So it's been really cool to just learn more about kinship care, see more what is out there, but also this past week, we've had the opportunity to present at a conference in California. So we really tried to get the word out about kinship care within the research world. But our goal is always to make the voices of kinship families forefront. So that's been a really cool experience as well. And also a little fun fact about me, I recently graduated in May and then I got married in June, and everyone always asks for a wedding picture. So I'm going to show that. So yeah, my husband's name is McLaren, and we actually ended up moving back to Connecticut after I graduated for his job temporarily. But like I said, everything I do is online. So it's been able to work out pretty well. And then also I have to complete my introduction with my little cats. I currently don't have kids, so these are my cat kids and they're treated rightfully so. But yeah, I just love cats, and I have a lot of respect for what you all do as parents, and I do see you all as the experts in parenting, knowing that I do not have that full experience, but this is Armani and Dior, so you all can meet them. And then a little bit about my story. As I said, I have some personal experience with kinship caregivers and kinship caregiving. And this actually started with my grandparents. So my grandparents, which you can see in the picture on the left, took my cousin into their care when he was about age 5, and he lived with them until he was about age 13. And I am a couple years older than him, so I kind of got an outside/inside perspective of what kinship caregiving meant, and also kind of the roots in caregiving, and also the family chaos and commotion that it can cause as well, because it really does have an effect on the entire family. But was really cool to see was just my grandparents' commitment to him through everything. They were always there for him. They were there at every game. They were helping him with homework, being as involved as they could as grandparents, and also keeping us involved as the other grandkids as well. So we all had a really special relationship with my grandparents. And like over time, their health did decline physically. And during the time where I was at college, my Nana actually got diagnosed with cancer. And it was just really hard to be away at this time and not feel like I was there to support my own family, which is part of the reason I got into this work. But they really cared for him throughout, and really until they couldn't. And unfortunately, my Nana passed away. The years like go so slow, but I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago now. And my papa passed away as well, like a year after that. So there's definitely a lot of transition in the family, and just adjusting to new roles. And after my grandparents passed away, my cousin moved in with my parents, and you can see them on the right. And so they became the kinship caregivers, which were his aunt and uncle. So now it became even more close to home, this concept of kinship caregiving. And my parents went from raising 3 triplet girls, that's also my fun fact that I'm a triplet, to a teenage boy who had just experienced immense loss. So it was definitely an adjustment for the whole family. And I feel like sometimes we like put silver linings on kinship care, that it's all great, but like I'm here to say that I know there's really hard times with it as well. So I've been happy to be able to be a part of his life and his story, and me and my cousin are really close. I kind of call him my brother. And he actually just went to college, and he's doing so great now. So it's cool to see just all of the kind of investments that our family has made in his life, how that's paying off, and how he's so independent now and grown so much in his self-confidence. And also, I hope he knows he always has someone to come back to and talk to if anything happens. So that's kind of a little bit on my story. Like I said, I don't have experience being a caregiver, so I recognize you all have a lot more on your plate with this than I do, but this is kind of what inspired me starting the group. And I always say it's kind of like in memory of my grandparents as well. So thank you guys for allowing me to share that too. So I'm going to share some background information, I guess more from a statistics/research perspective of why I started the group and the needs I saw. And during this part, I'll be asking some questions. So I'm hoping those comfortable might be able to answer and interact with the presentation. You can either unmute yourself and share or share in the chat too, and I'll try my best to keep an eye on that. So just some big numbers. Currently, there's 8 million children living with a relative as like the head of the household. So that's a lot of children living within kinship families. This and all this data is by Generations United. 2,400,000 grandparents nationwide are currently raising their grandchildren. And I think for kinship caregivers, the number is 2,500,000. And then in Ohio, this number isn't completely updated, but there's 100,000 grandparents raising their grandchildren. So what I thought was interesting before getting into just knowing my own experience, I didn't even know kinship care as a term. I didn't know what that meant. And maybe some of you all have never heard the term kinship care before either coming into this role. But what's so interesting is when I got into it, I just found how common kinship care is. And I think people who I've interacted with, if they think hard enough, they can think of having met a kinship caregiver, having a kinship caregiver in their life. So just seeing these numbers, first of all, knowing that you're not alone and it is common, but also this is something that affects so many people and needs to be talked about within society, within law, within policy, so much more. But yeah, that was something that surprised me kind of getting into kinship care on a more formal level. And I'm going to share the link to a fact sheet that Generations United published. If you're interested in learning more, they just released their most recent kind of annual report, and they have a lot of good information that's pretty easy to read through and digest. So you can see that in the link in the chat. And I don't want to show any of these statistics to be negative or, to only show one side of kinship care, but I think it's important to recognize that there is such a need for support that's not really being met. And I don't think any of that is a caregiver's fault. I think it's really just the system not adequately responding to your needs. But in research, kinship caregivers often experienced increased caregiver burden, which just means you have more on your plate more frequently. Poor physical and mental health outcomes, decreased social support, more financial hardship, and increased social isolation, which especially was exacerbated during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is why I was really happy to start the group at that time. But even just social isolation in your roles and not feeling like many people that can relate to you, even if they're family members or friends already. It is a very unique experience that I've heard only others in the same position can really relate to. So when I saw all of this in research, I guess I just wanted to be a part of the solution and be a real support to kinship families. Okay, so this is the interaction piece, but kinship care, I think, really changes everything. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and not overlook that. A lot of life factors change for you, for the child in your care, and for the entire family too. So I do want you to take a second to think about kind of what your life was like before taking the children into your care and kind of the things that made up your identity before becoming a kinship caregiver, if you can remember that time. And if anyone would like to share, they're invited to share at this time as well. Sorry, I'm going to try to look at the chat. Yaya said she had a job. Anything else that comes up of how you might have perceived your life and yourself before becoming a kinship caregiver?
I would say for myself, everything was running smoothly until July, when I took custody of my granddaughter, and that just threw everything off. So I'm just still trying to play catch up in all of this. this is all new to me. So I would say I thank you first of all for starting this group. I also thank Miss Turpin because she's been a big support as far as once I came across her name and did my research on that, I reached out to her. She's been a huge help. She's been more of a help to me than the individuals that were put in place to assist me. So I really do thank you and appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Clarissa. And thank you, Barb, too. Barb is the best advocate and supporter. I agree. But it sounds like what you really lost was like a sense of control and stability too within your life with everything kind of changing at once.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I would say more so because it was just me. So I could get up and do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. And so now since I have my granddaughter, I do in a sense feel that isolation, that sense of isolation. So I get it. So I just learned to work around it. So she's my priority. So whatever it is she needs, I'm going to take care of that first. And then when you're in this situation, you sort of have to put yourself on the back burner and, deal with whatever you're faced with at hand. So that's what I'm doing.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
It's not easy.
You're right. Thank you, Clarissa. And does anyone else have any thoughts or want to share?
Prior to me getting my grandson, I pretty much had an open schedule, like with work and like social life. I could go where I wanted to go when I wanted. I didn't have to check with anybody, because I didn't have any kids. I could just run where I wanted to. If I wanted to go shopping for the day, I just got out and did it. Now, with having my grandson, I really have to, I have to make sure that he doesn't have any appointments, or I have to learn how to adjust to having a baby again, because it was all new, with his disabilities and his limitations and stuff like that. It was like a complete ball that can turn everything upside down. Me and my husband were newlyweds. We had just gotten married. He has no kids whatsoever. He's never been around kids because he was the only kid in his family. So having a baby and kids in our life was a total all new things to him. So it still is hard, because now not only do we have my grandson, but we babysit the granddaughter too. And, she doesn't have any disabilities or problems. So we're going from having a child that is, completely disabled, not able to talk, not able to do a lot of things, to the granddaughter who wants to be very vocal and very active, and he tries to follow her. So even though he's the older one, he tries to follow everything she does.
Yeah.
So it's a big adjustment to going from no kids to going to 2 kids in the family, and having the space and the time and having a full-time job and working things out with him. I never had to do that even when I had my own kids, because I was a stay-at-home mom. And now working with having 2 kids, it's a big adjustment, and it's very, very hard. I tell you, I don't know what I would do without the support group that I'm in, because some of the days, we can be as emotional as we want, and everybody on there supports us. So it's kind of like, it's different when you are talking to somebody that's going through the same thing you are, So
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing.
It's a big adjustment.
You provided some really good examples. Thank you. And I think, Melissa, you have your hand up, so you'll be the last to share, and then I'll share the chat a little bit too. So go ahead, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to share that we brought in a child to our family. He is the youngest, but there are 2, we're a military family. We have 2 in college that are still traveling with us, 2 in high school and 1 in grade school, and we homeschooled. And so bringing in a child with special needs, attachment disorder, has been not just for our child rearing thrown us for a loop. So we have to learn how to parent in a whole new way, but just to recognize and give a shout out to those kids who are living in those homes whose lives have become very centric on the new kid, and they've gotten bumped, that their needs often get bumped. So it's just a big change for how we parent them as well. And that their appointments often get bumped to the back burner because, you know, therapy appointments, trying to help the new kid get what he needs. So anyway, that's just something I wanted to add. It's just a different thing that I've been trying to help address too, and keep up on how I can help serve our kinship families and our kinship families as kids. So
That's great. That's a great point. That really how it changes the whole family dynamics with the other kids still living in the house, even between spouses. I've seen that with my parents too. So it's not just you as a caregiver, it's really the entire family. And then also you having to adapt to the changing needs of the family too. So thank you for that, Melissa. And you guys are so great. I see so many responses in the chat, so I'll read through a few, but really I appreciate everyone's participation. Yaya said before becoming a kinship caregiver, she knew who she was more. Kim said, I had the time for myself prior. Having older children and life with teenagers to having a new baby in the house. That's quite the transition, going back to someone completely dependent on you, literally hour to hour. Melissa said, I felt organized and able to provide for my family's needs. Tangi said, my career ended. A lot of my adult relationships changed after becoming a caregiver. My peers didn't relate to the situation. Thank you for sharing that, Tangi. Denise said, before I had an active social life and traveled a lot prior to becoming a kinship caregiver. I have no children, so everything changed overnight. I got depressed and engulfed with getting services and places to meet her needs. So what I hear there too is it kind of puts you in survival mode, especially when you first become a caregiver and having to adapt to all the needs and the things on your plate. And as Clarissa mentioned, you feel like you kind of move to the back burner, just trying to get things sorted out. Melania said, I had a better work-life balance. I really needed support and respite until I could adjust. Yes, I will be sharing the link to my support group soon. The name is Kinship Caregivers Connect. But thank you for asking about that. So this next slide. So this slide might represent how you felt before having a kid in your care. You might have been more the center of your world with the other things around it, being a part of your identity as much as you wanted them to an extent. But now after becoming a caregiver, you might feel a lot smaller and more overwhelmed by the other things around you, just by having to adapt. And a lot of you all mentioned these already. But just like the day-to-day life transition, the change in routine, having to undergo the legal process, that can be something so stressful, so expensive, so long and drawn out. And that's like a whole big thing that is just one item that you have to pay attention to. But I've heard that can be very stressful. You have to care about your child's well-being. And I think it's important to recognize you're caring for children who have experienced trauma. And what we found in our research, and even just within our support group, is a lot of kinship caregivers are also raising children with disabilities or higher needs. So not only are you having to give energy to being a parent, but being a parent to a child with higher needs and having to adapt to those needs. So that definitely is worth recognizing. You're having to pay attention to the child's education, and there might be a shift in the schools. The schools might not be supportive, and you really have to fight for those supports. Financial stability, this might have to be a lot bigger circle, because I know this is something really challenging, just not receiving that financial support as a kinship caregiver, or enough financial support when you're taking in a child. And that does change a lot with your finances, the amount you have to work, even if you're able to work, and the lack of respite and not having that respite care can be very difficult. I've heard some caregivers had to quit working because childcare was too expensive. Or if you're working a job, you might have to, have a different schedule. So it definitely affects a lot with the routine and financial stability too. Birth parent involvement is different for everyone, but this is also something that's on your plate when becoming a kinship caregiver. And feeling a split loyalty between the child and the birth parent often at times, but really having to decide to focus on the child. The changing family dynamics, which Melissa described so well. And then your own well-being. So by the time we get to your own well-being, we kind of have gone through a lot of things. So I hope the support group can be one of the things for you, one of the things that you can do to support your well-being. And just know, if you're not taking care of yourself, it becomes a lot harder to take care of the child in your care. And I know, like the oxygen mask analogy that I'm sure you've all heard, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can someone else. So I'm here to say that I know this is really tough, but I want to try to be a source of encouragement as much as I can. And I really appreciate everyone sharing, because I think it's important to leave space and acknowledge that sense of loss. And I actually went to a presentation recently and it talked about ambiguous loss. So it's a loss that's not as visible or obvious, where if you like lose a pet or someone else, it's more of like a tangible loss. But ambiguous loss is loss of identity, losing family relationships, kind of less obvious things, but it's important to recognize them because it is a loss. And I know you all are resilient and find ways to cope with that, but also just leaving space for that and also congratulating yourself for getting through it one day at a time. So sorry, I'm starting to sound like an inspirational speaker, but I hope you can recognize that. So my line here is, even the safety net needs a strong support. So if we think of a safety net, and a lot of times I think of Kinship Caregivers kind of as that safety net. If anything happens, you all are the ones there, which is why your life can be so busy, just being there all the time. And I know my grandparents were largely the safety net of my own family. So even the safety net, even though it's not supported from the bottom, it has multiple supports at the top. And if a safety net's not supported, then kind of it all goes down. So it's really important to build in those small supports where you can, because being a safety net, you need supports as well. And one story I wanted to share, I think I meant to share earlier, but kind of the moment that kinship care clicked for me and just like how serious it was, I always knew that my grandparents were this safety net, but just hearing the extent to it, when my grandma was passing away, I wasn't able to come home from college. So I talked to her on the phone, which I knew might be the last time I talked to her. And I remember she just kept saying and I mean, it wasn't very easy for her to talk at this time, but make sure Damon gets his school uniforms, he needs his uniforms on time. And I was just like, what? I did not expect the conversation to go this way. Of course, we said other things as well. But I think that really just showed me kinship care means taking care of everything and even the small things. And it had become such a strong part of her identity. That's what was on her mind. And of course, we did get the uniforms taken care of. But that's kind of a moment that has always stuck with me. But all that to say, it's important for you all to be getting support where you can. And that's why I'm so happy. Hopefully the support group can just be one of those supports. So you may feel like this, where the responsibility and stress might feel a lot heavier than you are or your capacity. Or some days you might feel like this too. Not sure if this is resonating with anyone, but that is okay. And I think that is kind of a normal part of stepping into this role and kind of the huge transition that happens at first, but that transition continues throughout the whole time you're caring for a child as well. So I said, how can we try to get to this, which is representing life balance without going to a spa? And of course, it's never going to be this perfect. It's kind of an exaggerated image. But something we learn about in school is called occupational balance. And that's just meaning that the different roles in your life feel somewhat balanced. And I know as kinship caregivers that your role and identity as a caregiver can feel so heavy. But what are the small things that you can do to kind of honor your own identity as a person, and maybe that some of the identity that you lost in becoming a caregiver? So I know with the term self-care, we often think of going to the spa, taking a bubble bath, which are great examples of self-care. But I think there's a lot of different ways we can approach self-care. And I think the main goal should be just connecting with that part of ourselves that we might miss a little bit, or doing something to make us healthy, just anything where we feel like we can put ourselves first. And I know that's really hard. And I know logistically is the hard part. There's not often time for that. But even if you can just take like 5 minutes a day, whether that be like starting the day with a positive affirmation, or starting the day doing some stretching or reading a book that you enjoy. And even if it's not every day, even if it's just once a week, I think those little deposits over time can really make a difference. So I have some examples up here, but I'm curious to ask if anyone has any examples of self-care that they've done for themselves, whether it be something small, whether it be something bigger, but kind of something they do to connect with themselves. And you can put that in the chat or unmute yourself and share.
Angela, this is Yaya.
Hi,
And-
Yaya.
Hi, you already know my story. So, but now that I'm getting older and the boys are getting older and it's getting a little bit harder. My self-care now is taking care of me. Because if I don't take care of myself, what good am I going to be to them? So I try to maintain my doctor's appointments because I had neglected all of that for 2 years. And another thing is keeping my mind at peace. Because for a while, my mind was mad, it was angry, it was depressed, it was resentful. So now I just try to keep my mind quiet. I try to keep it slow and I try to keep it at peace, because if I'm not at peace, it's a reflection off of me. It shows off of me. So, my self-care is going to the spa. It is getting my nails done, but it's also taking care of my mind. Because I have to take care of my mind, because when my mind is going 1,000 miles, I'm no good to nobody, including them little people.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you for sharing, Yaya. And someone I'll mention a little bit in the presentation is Dr. Crumbly. He is kind of like a kinship expert that's been doing it for a while. And one thing that he always says is you have to be okay for the children to be okay. So just making sure you're okay and your mind is okay is such an important part. And the spa and the nails are also great as well. I love it. So thank you, Yaya. Anyone else like to share? And I'm looking in the chat too. Oh my gosh, you guys have such great examples. Rachel said, our support group is the best. We have the best person to lead us in all our group. I feel so lost. Now I get a load off my shoulder. Thank you, Rachel. And I'm glad the group can provide that support. I love Bible crossword puzzles. Oh, that's a good one. Crossword puzzles, they make you think. You got to be in the flow of it. That's awesome. Listen to some music, went shopping. I read the YouVersion Bible with daily devotionals, messages, time with my husband. Oh, that's great. And faith can really be such a strong source of support too. I know it is for me as well. Trying to maintain proper sleep habits. Yeah, so sometimes we have to go back to just the small things in our routine that feel like the basics, but sleep is so important. If you're not getting the right sleep, then that literally affects the rest of your day and the rest of the other things you have to do, because you might not feel like you're in the right state of mind. My self-care is a mini vacation and small home projects. I love that. Melissa said, agreed, super duper support group. Thank you. Melania said, taking time to volunteer makes me feel really great. That's awesome. My self-care is faith-filled. I do a 30-minute study daily. Oh, that's great too. And just having those 30 minutes to yourself and with God sounds like that can be really helpful. Well, you all are already doing such a great job. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, I know this is a hard thing. I don't know it as well as you do, but I've heard this is a really hard thing, but I think it's always good to just talk about it, encourage each other and share ideas, because it is also really important that you're taking care of yourself as a caregiver too. So, oh my gosh, I still have a lot to cover, but that's okay. We'll get through it. So kind of what we're about. Really the main reason for starting this support group was just to start a place of community and fellowship. I've learned things in schools, but I'm not the expert. You are all the expert doing this day to day. So I really just wanted to create a community where you all felt empowered in sharing and encouraging one another, because everyone's experience is different, and it's always helpful to hear different experiences, but also just to have a safe place to share. Because I know there's a lot of feelings that come up with things in kinship care. There's a lot of hard emotions and things that you feel like you shouldn't be feeling, but you are feeling, and that's okay. So I think it's really important to have that space to share those. And like some people share, like, I don't even like being a grandma sometimes. And it might be hard to say out loud, but it's very true for you. And a lot of other people have that experience too. So we do talk about the hard things as well. And I'm really grateful that all of the caregivers in our group feel comfortable sharing, because I think that's really makes it what it is. We're about learning together. I bring in speakers at least between 2 and 4 times a month to different meetings. So I really tried to have different information presented. And I'm going to share about a really exciting opportunity that started this week, but it's going to be a 2-month ongoing session. So I'm hoping you all are interested and will join. We had the first part of it yesterday and it went really well, but this is a huge opportunity to just learn together about different topics specific to kinship care, encouraging well-being and self-care, and then also building a resource network. It's so great having so many caregivers in the group now, because you all are the ones finding the resources. I know Rachel found like a flyer or learned about getting free prescription goggles for your kids. So we share all different types of resources, whether that's specific to kinship or just opportunities within the state. But we love just building a resource network with one another and connecting to other agencies, and also raising awareness about kinship care. I always try to do that whenever I'm connecting to someone else. Oh gosh, this is a lot of talking for me. Okay, so I'm going to read this poem and then I might skip ahead a couple of slides, and then we'll get more into the training that I mentioned. But I wrote this pretty recently, and obviously it was inspired by the support group, but just talking about the power of sharing and kind of what being vulnerable can do and how important it is, and also how there's not really many spaces for that. So this is called The Things Unsaid. And sorry if the text is small, I'll try to read it slow so everyone can hear it. It's not so much what we say, but what's left unsaid. Words that try so desperately to climb our throats, yet we swallow and wallow in unsaid expectations and fear. Vulnerability rarely has a chance. Yet through the chatter and the lighthearted matter, these are the words that really matter. Erasing the silver lining and shading it all in as our journey. These are the words that gather, give, connect, live, collect, intersect our stories. The ones that keep us alive inside and tied to those beside, hand in hand, taking it one step at a time. So I think all of this to say, I think my favorite line here is erasing the silver lining and shading it all in as our journey. I think we're sometimes encouraged to just like be positive and focus on the positive, but really sharing our journey as it is equally as important. And this is what connects us all together, sharing the joys, the triumphs, the challenges, all the things, and hopefully walking hand in hand, taking it one step at a time too. So thank you all for listening. I covered a lot of this already. I think we are the first online support group in Ohio. And a lot of that was due because we started right after COVID. So it's been a pleasure to be able to continue this for the past 2.5 years. And we do host meetings 2 times a week on Zoom. So my main priority is accessibility. I know you all have busy schedules and busy lives, so I do offer 2 meeting times, which we'll get to next. And we have some meetings dedicated just to peer support, so we'll be an open discussion and sharing, kind of like we were doing earlier. And then other times we have speakers come in and talk about different topics related to kinship care, which we have covered a lot of topics. So my main goal here is, as I mentioned before, really just fostering a community of solidarity and fellowship, so no kinship family has to walk alone. So really creating this safe space, but letting you all do the magic and providing support to one another. I'm just going to check the chat quick to make sure. Oh, you guys are so sweet. So the meeting times, we meet Tuesdays 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and then Thursdays 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I always say there's no commitment, so there's no requirement to come every week. I really want it to work for you all. So even if you can only come once a month, every 2 months, if you can come twice a week, that's great. You're welcome to come twice a week. But you're always welcome to join, and you're always welcome back if you get busy. But it's great that we've had literally people coming once or twice a week for the past 2 years or so, and we've gotten to know each other really well. And it's always so great having new members join too and become a part of our family. A way to stay connected is to join our weekly email newsletter list. And I'll send out, I'm going to send our website link, and it is on the front page of our website. There's just something you can fill out. And this is really how I stay in touch with everyone and how I make announcements and all of that. So hold on one sec. I'm just going to paste it into the chat. So I send out quite a few emails. I think about 3 times a week. I'll do like a newsletter on Mondays with kind of the announcements of the support group, and also different resources to keep you all updated. And that's more like the newsletter. And then I'll send reminders the day of support group meetings about the support group with the Zoom link too. So if you're interested in joining, the best way to join is to just fill out the form on our website and join our email list. And we do upload resources to our website monthly, at least monthly, probably more than that. But I'll show our website shortly, and we have a lot of different pages with resources on different topics. So even if you can't come to a meeting, I think our website could be a great resource for you too. We do record speaker presentations, and this is great. So if you want to rewatch it, or if you couldn't make the meeting, you can watch it right on our website. We also do a gift card raffle each month, which I'm happy to do just to encourage participation. And I know a gift card can mean a lot. I always encourage you all to spend it on yourself if you can. And this is based on attendance. So every time you attend a meeting, that's like 1 entry. And then at the end of the month, I raffle off gift cards. And then we also have a group message. If this is something you're interested in, we use the app GroupMe, and I'm in the group message, so I kind of moderate it. But we pretty much send messages of encouragement every day and keep each other updated on each other's lives. So if you're interested in a more frequent type of support, then we also offer a group message as well. So these are some things we have covered and continue to cover, and kind of the list just keeps getting bigger. But to give you an idea, custody and legal issues, we have a really, really great lawyer who actually Ron connected me to, Bailey Butler, and she's really knowledgeable about kinship and has come in many times to talk about different topics such as public benefits, succession planning, custody, and also answer questions. So she's been such a great partner to have in the group. We talk about navigating the school system and different options within the school system, a lot about setting up an IEP and advocating for your child within schools, trauma-informed care and trauma-informed parenting. This is probably the biggest thing we talk about just because it comes up so much, and I think hearing about it from different perspectives can always be helpful. And like I said, you're often raising kids with higher needs, so just learning how to adapt to that and really meet them where they are, we try to talk about often. Self-care, as you can tell, as an OT, I really enjoy talking about self-care when we can. Cyber safety, different community resources. I try to keep it to statewide resources, but I'll also mention different county resources as well. Parenting strategies, coping skills. There's so many more as well. And I'm excited to preview one of the trainings we have coming up. So we recently partnered with Dr. Joseph Crumbly, and he is a very well-known speaker and trainer within Kinship Care. He's actually a licensed marriage and family therapist and about to retire. So this is kind of his last project, but he's super, super knowledgeable on the topic of kinship specifically. And he's made a training specific to kinship families. And we're actually the first to pilot this training. So he has videos, and then I'm actually working on creating a facilitator's guide and also caregiver worksheets. So you all will have worksheets to follow along on all these topics. And yeah, it's all things that have come up, but we haven't kind of talked about in a formal way. So having his expertise has been really great. So I'll play the video, but the topics are attachment, legacy, identity, healing, adaptability, and co-parenting. And this is, like I said, all designed specifically for kinship care. And what's great is he's worked with all different types of populations, including foster and adoptive parents, and is really able to see the strength of kinship families, and really talks about the strength and the power you do have in caregivers and providing for your child, and just giving them a better chance at life and increased well-being. And there's so much strength in being a kinship caregiver. So I'm going to play that video now. And this is just a preview, so I'm not going to play the whole 30 minutes. I think it's about 5 minutes long, but he'll talk about the different topics.
My name is Dr. Joseph Crumbly. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and family therapist, and I'd like to welcome to you to this training entitled The Inherent Strengths of Kinship Care. It's very special to me for 3 reasons. 1, it allows me to recognize and even celebrate the strengths of kinship caregivers who are able to care for children that are not biologically theirs, and they're doing it in the absence of the birth parents. The second reason why I'm glad to be able to do this training is because it allows me to not only recognize, but to identify how caregivers, how you as caregivers use your strength to protect, to nurture, and to stabilize the children in your care. And the third reason why this training is personal to me is because it also allows me to highlight for professionals and for child welfare agencies why these strengths are the reasons relative caregivers and kinship caregivers should be given preferential consideration over adoption and foster care when children are unable to stay with their birth parents. And let me repeat that. It allows me the opportunity to highlight for professionals and for child welfare agencies and organizations why these strengths are the reasons caregivers and kinship families should be given preferential consideration when children aren't able to stay with their parents. So let me describe this training for you. This training is divided into modules, 6 modules, and each module highlights a particular strength in kinship care. The first module will be looking at attachments. And when I'm talking about attachments there, I'm talking about what's unique and significant about attachments between caregivers and their children, and why this is a strength and why this attachment is so effective in kinship care. The second module is entitled Legacies. And in that module, I'll be talking about the strengths of kinship care as it relates to the sharing of traditions and values and history with the children between caregivers and birth parents, and why that's so significant. And also in that module, I'll also be able to talk about how you as a caregiver are able to interrupt cycles, create new legacies and new traditions so that you can break the cycles and the patterns that actually resulted in the children coming into your care. The third module is identity. And in that module, I'll be talking about how you as a caregiver prevent the loss of multiple identities that children experience in foster care. The identities related to culture and tradition and language and history. And in that one, I'll also be highlighting how you as a caregiver actually are involved in developing the identity of those children and being able to make sure that the children can avoid the types of decisions that resulted in them coming into care. The fourth module is entitled Healing. And in that module, I get a chance to talk about how you as caregivers can help the children recover from the losses and the trauma that results from separation from their birth parents. And I also am going to be highlighting how your sharing of your own personal losses as a relative and as kin to the birth parents also allows you to bond and attach with the children. In the fifth module, I'll be talking about adaptability. And in that one, I'll be talking about how kinship caregivers and how families within 24 to 72 hours are able to assume those roles and responsibilities so the children don't have to leave the families and go into care. In the sixth and final module, I'll be talking about co-parenting. And I'll be talking about that relationship between you as a caregiver with the birth parent that allows you to connect and develop a partnership, and how that pre-existing relationship is an advantage in terms of you being able to develop a partnership and co-parenting relationship with the birth parent. I'm also going to be talking about how to change the challenges that can come from that pre-existing history, and how we can make that relationship move from being a challenge to a positive asset in kinship families. So now let's move to the topic of.
Okay, so there's the preview. I know it was kind of a lot at once, but I hope you're able to kind of hear from Dr. Crumbly all of the different things that we'll talk about and that are covered. And I've had the privilege to get to know him and work with him, and I feel like I'm like a billboard for him. But I have to say how incredible he is and how knowledgeable he is. And it's just been really cool to be a part of this project and really to be the first group to pilot his trainings. And we're also getting your feedback as we go through it as well. So you can see the schedule. I'm sorry if it's a little small. This is also posted on our website. We just started yesterday with part 1 of attachment, and then we'll start with legacies on Thursday, but we have different topics. So certain topics we'll cover on Tuesday, and then certain topics we'll cover on Thursday. So we have attachment part 2 next week, and then identity for the next 2 weeks after that on Tuesday, and then adaptability for the next 2 weeks after that on Tuesday as well. And then on Thursday, we'll start with legacy. Next Thursday will be off for Thanksgiving, and then for the next 2 weeks after that, do the healing ones, and then for the next 2 weeks after that, do co-parenting. So we have a jam-packed next 2 months, and I know it is around the holiday times, which get busy, but this is a really great opportunity if you do have the time and availability. And I'm just wondering if anyone here in our support group who was able to make the one yesterday is able to share a little bit on it, and if they have any thoughts or kind of what it was like being a participant in it.
I really like that he also talks about topics that nobody wants to talk about. Like, you know, all the stuff that he talks about, it kind of brings out the things that we don't really want to talk about, but it's good to talk about.
Yeah, it's those harder topics for sure. Thanks, Rachel.
This is Yaya. I had the opportunity to sit in on it, and I like how he asked the questions, even though I felt like he was talking to us, but he really wasn't. How did the kids feel when they came into our care versus now? And just made me think of how their feelings, you know, we always talk about our feelings and how we feel, but what about the kids and how they feel? And then how they, after a while, do become attached to us because we are their safe haven. I really like how he pointed that out. So now I understand why my grandkids feel that I'm supposed to take care of them. You know, so I understand the attachment that he was talking about with the grandkids and the grandparents.
Thanks, Yaya. And Dr. Crumley did say after you hopped off that it's a good thing they feel that way. He said he'll mention it next time he's on the meeting. But yeah, he actually attends some of the meetings as well, just kind of to sit in, but he'll answer questions at the end, which is very cool. So this is a really exciting opportunity for us, and I'm glad to be here to tell you all about it too. I think it's a great time to join the group if you're thinking about it. And I do have a link to a Google form that you can fill out if you're interested in joining. I am mailing out the worksheets pretty soon because I know not everyone has access to a printer. So if you're interested, or even if you're not sure that you want to be a part of it, but at least would like the worksheets, you can fill out the link in the chat or just email me or contact me anyway and say that you're interested. And that's a great way to become involved. And it is all during our regular meeting times too. So yeah, every month we send out a schedule that's different. I have a Tuesday flyer and a Thursday flyer. Sometimes the topics overlap a little bit, but sometimes they're completely different. And there are people that come twice a week, which is great. So I try to change it up when I can. But we already kind of talked about the schedule for this month, so I don't want to be repetitive. But we'll talk about attachment part 2 next Tuesday, and then go into caregiver identity the Tuesday after that. And then this next Thursday, we'll talk about caregivers' legacies and kind of your role in shaping legacy for the family. And then we won't have a meeting on Thursday because of Thanksgiving, but we'll pick right back up in December, and I'll be sure to send out the December flyer, and OGKC also posts these on their website, which is great. So this is somewhere you can find this information as well. Sorry, it's not, there we go. So I did want to share a little bit about our website. Like I said, we do have a ton of resources on here. You can scan the code to get to our website, or just go to kinshipcaregiversconnect.com. Sorry about that. Kinshipcaregiversconnect.com, and you'll find us there. So I'm going to share it. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip ahead. I'm going to share a different screen with our website. So this is what the home screen looks like. and you can see all about us. And I try to post the most recent big things on our homepage, so you can see the flyer for the current training we're doing, the inherent strengths of kinship families. And I call it a training, but it's really more of like a learning session and discussion. We spend at least half the time discussing the topics that were in the video. So this is where you can join the support group as well if you're interested. We have our flyers up here. We have about our annual kinship family celebration, which I'll mention next. And then I try to do like a featured resource just on a different topic. So the home screen's kind of where it's all at. If you want to learn more about us, we have an about page. We also have a meeting schedule. So it's all right there in front of you if you just want to look at the dates all at once. And then this resource page is really what I want to get to. So the easiest thing to do is hit resources and then the overview page, and you can find all of the things we have resources on. So legal kind of things that I had talked about before, legal information, child well-being, mental health, schools, self-care, different resources. We also have a books and podcast page too, and I love getting your recommendations to add to this. So if you click on whatever you're interested in, you just click find out more. And then you can see previous presentations we have. So this one is by Dr. Bailey Butler, who I'd mentioned earlier, and she talks about Ohio Kinship Public Benefits. And then you can actually download the presentation if you'd like to print it out and write on it or look at it, and you can play the video right on the website too.
So thanks everyone for being.
So we really have so many resources on so many different topics. This was by Barb Turpin on advocacy. So I just really encourage you to check out our website and see what we already have on there. We've been at this for like 2.5 years, so we have been able to compile a lot of different resources. And the great part is the speakers, not all of them are connected to kinship care. They might know about like child well-being, but they get to learn from you all too about kinship care. And it's definitely a mutual learning experience when we have speakers. And then we do have some caregiver stories on here, some of whom are on the meeting now. So you all can check these out too, and just kind of their thoughts on the support group, which I'll ask some people to share in a bit as well. And then our contact page. So yeah, that's our website. Definitely feel free to check it out to learn more about us, and definitely look at the resources as well. Okay, this really is a lot of talking for me. So this past September, it was September, I think, no, October, we had our second annual Kinship Family Celebration, and this was such a great time. Being an online support group and being statewide, we obviously don't have the opportunity to see each other in person very often, although some people do connect who live near each other. So I really like to try to have an annual meeting or annual celebration where we can all just get together. And I call it a celebration because I just want it to be a fun time where nothing's asked of you, but you really get to enjoy yourself. You'll see different volunteers in the picture too. And these are Ohio State occupational therapy students who provide childcare at the event. So you can really just enjoy yourself and know that you're leaving your kids with people who know what they're doing too. And it's a great opportunity for the kids to be able to connect as well. And it is a family affair. I had my husband, my mom, and my mother-in-law come and help with the event as well. And Barb was there, which was really special. So it's just a time to all get together. I'm starting to think about how we can do it more often too, and maybe do it in different areas, because we have just been doing it in Columbus, and I know people are statewide, but we'll have to wait for the warm weather too. But yeah, that's another fun part of what we do. Oh gosh, I keep saying this is a lot of talking. I want to get to the end so I can hear you guys talk again. But Kinship Connections is something that I've done as I started this as a student, and this is more for if there's any professionals out there in the field, but it's a training that I created specifically for school professionals on how you can connect and partner with kinship families. And I think in the schools, they work with all families, and they might work with kinship families, but not really know what that means or know kind of how kinship families can best be supported, especially in a time of transition. So I put together this training that goes over like what kinship family means, common experiences of kinship families. I have a few caregivers sharing their stories in a video that's including in this training as well. And then we kind of brainstorm supports and strategies within the school specifically, but I'm hoping to expand this to different settings as well. And just, like I said, have that mutual learning of kinship families and having their voices heard. So certainly if you're in the field and this sounds interesting to you, I'd be happy to connect. And I just want to thank again all of the supports that have been involved in the process. When I moved to Ohio, I had the idea of kinship care, but I did not know one kinship caregiver, did not know one kinship organization. So really starting off partnering with the Ohio Grandparent Kinship Coalition has made this support group what it is and helped me connect to so many people. So I really appreciate their belief in me and support from the beginning. And also Ohio Family Care Association now is partnered with me and also helps with keeping the support group running. And then of course, I'd like to thank Ohio Can for funding this support group and spreading the word to Kinship Caregivers. They are a navigator program. So if you haven't contacted them already, they're a great resource to get started, and just they'll connect you to different resources statewide and within your area that could be helpful. Okay, so I have one more thing that I'll read, and then I'm going to open it up to the group. But this is one more poem and that I wrote, as I said, just my experiences working with you all. And it's called A Poem for Kinship Caregivers, Unsung Heroes, Kinship Caregivers, Unsung Heroes. So I'm going to read through it. Like I said, sorry, the text is small. Unsung heroes of sorts, yet the song has been sung Kinship Caregivers, unsung heroes of sorts, yet the song has been sung quietly, day by day. What must I do to make a child feel safe, to make a child feel loved? Must I give up my whole world and my entire life? Well, that asks for a lot, but the cost isn't too much. Must I do it all without recognition? Must I navigate new territory and follow a new path of life that I never envisioned? Well, that asks for a lot, but the life of a child is more. Day by day, you have gone the extra mile to the moon and back times a million. You show that love in this life is truly chosen, and your love with each breath doesn't go unnoticed. You are making ripples far farther than your lifetime can see. Heroes of your house and family, what more can one be? So that's kind of just my homage and recognition to all that you are doing, and realizing that a lot of sacrifices come with it. But I'm just so inspired by your persistence and taking it day by day to do what's best for the child and your care, and doing it with joy as well. So thank you all for allowing me to share that. As we are kind of wrapping up, I have some quotes from the website of what other caregivers have said being a part of the group. But if any caregivers who have been part of our meetings in our group would like to share at this time kind of what the experience of being a part of the group has been like, or what has meant to them, then I'd be happy to kind of open that discussion, and you can unmute yourself or add things to the chat. So feel free. Go ahead, Yaya. I knew it. It's great.
You do it. So, I love the support group. So I'm going to talk about the support group. I'm Yaya. I'm the stressed out, overwhelmed Yaya. And when I came to the group, I believe I came when you started it. So I had already had my grandkids for 2 years. I was depressed. I was angry. I was mad. I was lonely. I was resentful. And I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I couldn't talk to everybody and let them know how I truly, truly felt about being a grandparent to some grandkids that I wasn't ready to take care of. The support group is my family. The woman that I am today, I am not the same woman I was when I started it 2 years ago. I have met some wonderful people. Miss Darlene, I don't know if she's on here, Miss Jackie. They have been there not just only on Thursdays and Tuesdays, but Jackie was there one day for me at 12 o'clock at night when I was having a mental crisis with my grandson. This group has really, really, really helped me out on so many levels. And it's a safe place to express your emotions, whether it's good or bad. Mine's usually be bad, but they understand. I love this group. I'm so glad I met you, Angela. I'm so glad I met you, Barb. And as long as you is running this group, Angela, I'm not leaving. I know I'm about to cry, so I'm gonna shut up.
You're gonna make me cry now too.
I'm about to start crying, so I'm gonna mute myself. I love you.
Love you too. And thank you so much, Yaya. You've been such an incredible part of our group too. And just seeing the growth you've had over the past 2.5 years, which you've put a lot of work into yourself has been really cool as well. So thank you for always keeping us real and sharing and being open and honest. So thank you so much. Anyone else like to share? Rachel, don't cry on me too. And if not, that's okay too. Tangi, did you want to share?
I'll go. I don't want to interrupt anybody.
No, you're never interrupting.
I do all the time. Anyway, it's like family. I mean, Angela, we become family, you know? I mean, I count on your meetings to have adult conversations that are hard conversations. It's like right now, the school called. I'm here at the school, but they said, finish your meeting.
Aw.
And I'm going to do that. She said, we'll take care of it. You know, I mean, we're just, it happened in COVID, but it's like, it's so much more now. You know what I mean? You are family to me, and so is the group. And Yaya is just a great support. I've seen her just speak and just be real. And so many times when we get into our meetings, we learn so much, and there's things that we get educated on, but there's also emotions. You know, we have these kids and we have to be able to release to somebody and something. And you're it. You did that. And we appreciate you so much for helping us. And I'm going to shut up. I'm getting emotional, but we love you, and I love you all.
Aw, thank you so much, Tangi. And Tangi's a person that I can count on seeing twice a week. So it's just such a pleasure to have you as a part of our group too. And thanks for always humoring my small talk too. But yes, definitely we're family, and it's been crazy, but also unexpected to see just how well you can get to know people online. You know, that was something I was worried about when planning this support group. Like, how the heck are we gonna get to know each other when it's just a computer screen? But we really have, like everyone said, have become family and bonded and gotten to know each other very well. So it's been a privilege, and of course I'm honored to run the group. But I always say you all come and do the magic. So thank you for that too.
Angela, this is Barb. And the one thing I want to sort of highlight is, first off, you've grown and come so far in these last 2 years. It's unbelievable. For somebody from starting from scratch, from a meeting that we had at Panera Bread to a full-blown support group that I think not only is it unique to Ohio, but I believe in you know, my interaction with states around the country, it's probably a unique support group for the rest of the country, and an example. And that's what I wanted to touch on. Where do you see yourself going here, maybe in the next year to 2 years, if you know, things continue to go the way they're going? Where do you, how do you see yourself growing in other aspects of the support group and what you're doing with it?
Thank you, Barb. I have put a lot of thought into it, and I say that I'm so lucky to do, like now when I wake up, everything I get to do is related to kinship care, whether that's interacting with you guys, like I said, my research job, working on these trainings. I feel so lucky, and that kind of has just been the dream for me. So I'm very content with how things are going. And of course, I will never stop this support group. I just enjoy it too much. So I definitely plan to keep the support group going. And I am working on putting like a model together that other people can kind of replicate or use. So hopefully I'll have a model written up of how I do things, and also be able to train other people who are interested in starting support groups with that, because there is really not much out there. There's definitely not much out there related to kinship care. When I was starting, I know I had to start from scratch. So just to be able to mentor others that are interested in starting a support group, and even getting caregivers more involved too, and training caregivers to start their own support groups. And I mean, you all are our members, but I think you're all leaders too, and just how involved you've gotten. And I'd also like, definitely a passion of mine to increase awareness of kinship care across different states, across different professions, because no one is talking about it. And it starts, I mean, I don't like to say the word crazy, but it kind of drives me crazy. I'm like, how does no one know about this? Like, I need to be a part of being a voice for you all. So especially working with Dr. Crumbly, who's just like the god of kinship care training and helping others to work with caregivers, I would love to kind of enter into the training world more as well, and just raise awareness about kinship care and the importance of getting you all the support that you need to. So we'll see. I'm very content where I am, but I'm also very excited for where things can go. And I would love to bring this on a national level if I could. So thank you, Barb. And thanks for your kind words too.
And I'm going to support that whole piece about being a voice, and it's not just you or OGKC being a voice, but we want to include these caregivers, especially the ones that are have grown through the support group, as a voice to again bring attention to kinship care. And I think we're going to start getting more recognition within the coming year. As we discussed, I think in last month's meeting, we are starting to form a national coalition, which is going to be bringing attention to kinship care all over the United States in terms of what it means to families and children and systems for the kinship caregivers to be stepping up like they are. So this support group is going to play an integral role in becoming a voice and making things heard and known to those legislators, policymakers, program developers about taking kinship care and looking at it as a way of keeping families and children together. So believe me, we're going to be getting people involved, reaching out to people and asking you to come on board and speak your truth, speak your experience, and support what we want to see happen for caregivers. So we thank you for that, Angela. And it's been exciting, not only just to see Angela's growth, but I've been involved with the support group off and on for the last 2 years. I've seen Yaya and Pandora and all of the caregivers that have been in and out of the support group, their growth and their support of each other, and taking this safe space and making it their own. And I'm very proud of Angela and all the caregivers that have been involved, and all the organizations that have been supportive of the support group and what has been happening the last 2.5 years. I know Ron had to jump off. I don't know if Lynn, if you're still on, do you have anything that you want to add before we close out here? Maybe she's had to go. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I am. Nope, thank you. I was been listening in and just helpful information. Just glad to know that Angela's support is there, and looks like some very dedicated members. Just thank you for all you do for the children in our state. So thank you for joining us as well. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys. And I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate being here. We do have such great advocates in our group too. And I have to say that it's not just that what the sharing that goes on in this work group, but I've seen you all be such great advocates, both informally and formally, for kinship. So I do have to say thank you for that as well.
Well, Angela, thank you very much for giving this wonderful presentation and giving people sort of a history of how this has come about and where it's going. And we are continue to be excited about this whole support group and where it's going. And we are definitely going to continue to support you and all the caregivers through the journey. I'll hopefully see a lot of you on December 3rd with the kids, and so they can talk to Santa, they can see Santa. I think we're going to have a very interesting Santa for them to be able to speak to, and hopefully let him know and let you know what it is that they really want for Christmas. And so we're looking forward to that December 3rd meeting. I'll be sending out the notice for everybody here to register and to get the gift cards that hopefully will help out with Christmas for the kids. And we definitely wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a safe and well Thanksgiving. Everybody stay well and be safe and enjoy being with your families. So unless anybody else has anything, let's check chat, make sure that nobody's had a question. But it looks like everybody's just really has been excited about the support group and what it's meant to them and where it's going. And so thank you very much, Angela, and your family and all the support that they've given you and here to the caregivers here in Ohio.
Thank you. And thank you everyone so much for being here and participating and sharing. It's truly been an honor and I love you all.
We love you too, Angela, and you did a good job. I know you didn't like all that